Right, we're Meeple Knights. I'm Doug.
And I'm Kevin.
Right, and Tom will be with us a little bit later. He is running late for the show for the first time. Unlike Kevin, that's always late. Not to the show, but maybe to our Formula D events. All right.
Nice. Appreciate
I had
that.
to throw that in there. But we have a special guest this week. We have Joe Slack. He is a designer. And Joe, would you like to tell us about yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Joe Slack. I'm a board game designer, now a publisher as well, and I teach game design as well. So I've been doing game design for about 8 years, a little over 8 years now, and full time for the last, I'd say, 3.5 years or so.
Awesome. So what games have you designed so far?
Yeah, I've got two self-published games, Relics of Rajavahara and the expansion for it, Montello's Revenge. They're solo puzzly adventure type games. And then I've got a few other games published with other publishers. One's called Zoo Your Z, which is a bluffing game. I've got King of Indecision, which is a press your luck kind of resource collection game. Forward Thinking, which is a fast-paced word game. And Kingdoms Candy Monsters, which is an engine building game about monsters collecting candies.
That bluffing one I might like. I do like that. I'm trying to get into solo games, actually. That's one thing I want to start doing here soon, especially because I have Final Girl coming, the Kickstarter.
Yes.
And that might be my first one, even though I did play Escape Tales by myself. That was a 6.5 hour long game it was fun, just that was long.
I find it interesting. It sounds like the majority of the games that you've created have all been different mechanics. Is there any sort of reason for that, or you just haven't kind of struck inspiration for a similar mechanic?
I think as a designer, I always love doing something new and creative. I never want to make the exact same game or something too similar. So I'll just have an idea and I'll run with it. And a lot of designers know this. Not every game you make is going to be published. So, even though there was those 6 games, there's probably another 30 odd games that have at least been made into a prototype, but have not gone that far or are being pitched right now, that type of thing. But I just like creating different things. So whatever idea I come up with, I'll just go and run with it. And it's also interesting as a designer to do different things, to try, making a solo game for the first time, to try making an 18 card game for the first time, to try doing a party game, just to, stretch your imagination, your creativity.
I got one for you. So see if you can do this, because I tried it.
Okay.
It's a trick taking game with player powers. I tried it. I came out with it. We played it, and we're like, this sucks.
Yeah, but it was literally one iteration, like with nothing planned out. Like, I'm pretty sure that's how every game starts out. The first iteration, you're like, oh, this sucks. What do I need to do to make it better?
That sounds like pretty much every one of my first iterations of all my games, practically, with very few exceptions. Most of them, it didn't quite work, but then you tweak it and change it, try some different things, and eventually over time it becomes better and better.
Yeah, that's actually Meeple Knights started because we were actually going to start game design, and we just never really stuck with it. It was just one of the things that we were like, it's a lot of work, and we just didn't want to do it.
Definitely is. It's a lot easier to play games for sure, but
especially good ones. Not because I got a friend too that I work with. He made one. It was about taking a picture of Bigfoot, and he said he made this game. He made it all out, did a lot to it, and then he's like, first thing he wrote down was boring, and he's never touched it since.
Yeah, it's easy to get discouraged and just say, oh, it didn't work. Like, it was perfect in my head. It was going to be, this amazing game. Then you make the version of it. You're like, oh, that's not at all what I thought this was going to be like. So you really have to stick with it. And a lot of people, they get past that first one. They're just like, no, I just don't know what to do next. Or some people don't even get to that stage of even making the prototype. They just have this idea in their head. They keep thinking about it. And like a year later, you're like, oh, how's that idea? How's that game coming along? Oh, I still haven't made it yet. It's still up here. And, it's not a game until it's actually on the table, at least.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Because, I don't know. I don't think we'll venture back to that board game design. Maybe if we get really bored. That ain't going to happen, though.
I don't think I will. Like, I'd be more than happy to like help you polish your ideas and stuff if you do that. But
I enjoy that more. Or like coming out with those random ideas, like because I think we had that notepad too, where we came up with ideas of like dice miner, like that one.
Yes. But I mean that was pretty much a very loose concept with a name attached to it. Like,
well, it was so funny too because we came up with the game called Dice Miner, where you mine dice, and I think it was like the same week, Dice Miner, the board game came out. We're like, no, did someone take our idea? But it was like a completely different concept. So ours is more if you've played Quartz.
Yep.
So taking Quartz, but having the dice out, pulling the dice out of the bag. So like pulling, kind of like that way. But I forget, we had a lot of ideas written down for that. I don't know. I can find it.
Yeah, it was something like that. You know, you'd have the colored dice, you pull it out, and then maybe you'd have to roll it to see what additional things happened. So there was really no divulgence into what each of the dice face would do or anything like that. It was just kind of that abstract idea.
Yeah.
Doug, you're giving away all your ideas. What the hell?
Someone's better take one run with them. Just, call me. No, we're not gonna go that way. So if someone can really take it, make it happen, I'm happy for it.
Yeah, they say ideas are the easy part of it. I mean, they're so crucial. Without the idea, there is no game there. But that's like 1% of it, and then it's all the work you put into it to take that idea and change it, modify it, and make it into an amazing game. That's where all the work comes.
Yeah, and I find it amazing too. Like some of like the big known publishers or whatever, they how fast they come up with games and they actually work really well. Like Eric Lang, where he said it was like a year for Marvel United. They didn't spend that long on it, did they? Or even like that Cyberpunk game, that wasn't even long that they Simon did.
I just figured like at their head office, they have like 4 or 5 like Wheel of Fortune wheels, and they just go spin them all in whatever combination. Like, this is the game we're working on next.
Like pulling a little number out of the hat. Like, which one is that?
Yeah, it kind of depend, because if a publisher has an IP, then they usually have a short period of time. They say like, we only have a year or 2 years to get this game out. So then they'll hire somebody like Eric Lang or somebody else and be like, okay, this is the game we need to make. These are the things we need to have in it. These are the things that can't be in it because maybe that's, licensed to somebody else or it's already been done in another game. And they say, we need to make a game around this. And then, okay, great. So they come up with the concept, and then they have to keep running it by, the IP holders and the publisher and everything. And it just gets tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. And then like, by the time that deadline comes out, it's like, we need to put something out by this date. So they're really like crunched under a timeline. Whereas most game design, it's something that a designer as a hobbyist has created, and then they pitch to a publisher, and then if the publisher is interested, they wind up signing it, and then it goes through the normal development cycle. So it's quite often a number of years. So yeah, it's very different working with an IP where they're really under a time constraint.
So as a publisher wise, speaking about that, do you think the game is better when it's got 17 years of being polished compared to 1 year?
Well, 17 years might be a little long.
I think you would go what I was saying, though.
Yeah, and any game that if a designer comes to me and they were to say, "Oh, I've been working on this game for 17 years," that would be a bit of a red flag to me. I'd think like, how come it took you this long, especially if it's not a super complex game or something, for it to take you 17 years to get this far. But definitely, yeah, most games are going to take, a year or more in, full development before they're really, really good. There are those exceptions, you hear the story about like Codenames where Vlaada Chvátil came up with the idea in, an hour or something like that. And then you like spend the next 6 months saying, okay, this can't possibly be all there is to it. Let's prove that it isn't. And then after 6 months, it's like, no, that just works as it is. But, those are the rare exceptions. Usually for those designers who've been doing this for so many years that, that idea can just kind of come out of nowhere and just work.
I actually saw Codenames and Staples today.
Oh, interesting.
I was walking through Staples and I saw a board game section and I was like, what? And Codenames was in there and I was like, okay, that's a very odd thing to see in the office store.
Yeah, I think about 6 months ago I was in a Staples and I walked by, and on the front display, they just had, a small stack of a bunch of different games. That I think they had Azul and Catan and a couple others, like some of the big hits. But I was like, wow, they're selling them in staples now. That was kind of a surprise.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was talking about the guy I work with where I was like, the board games are just exploding. And he's like, no, they're not. I'm like, you have no clue how the money that's in it and how many people are into the board games now compared to, years ago. I mean, Kevin always talks about it too when I was like, hey, want to come over and play board games? And he's like, I don't want to play Monopoly. Like, no, it's not Monopoly.
Right. Yeah, I think at most you maybe had half of the collection that you have now when I came over, and I was still like, what's wrong with your wall, man? Why do you have this many copies of Monopoly?
Yeah.
There might have been Clue in there too, or Risk, but
yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Clue, the best story ever.
I know what you're talking about too.
Yeah, I'll tell you really quick because it's a great story. I'm not really good at Clue, and my wife was away. We set up the game, and we're waiting for her to come back to the table. And so she finally comes back to the table. I take the first turn, and I go in a room, and I'm like, "Oh, Miss White, Candlestick Lounge," and because you basically go around the table, and if you have a clue, you give it. And she was like, no. Kevin was like, no. And I was like, well, I don't have it either. So I was like, all right, I want to solve it. And that was what it was. And she was just like, you guys cheated. I was like, I just took a random guess. But she was so mad. I think she almost flipped the table, that one. If she could have flipped it, she would have flipped it.
Your table's a bit too big to flip, but yeah, she probably would have.
Oh, man.
All right. So I guess let's move over to our random fact for the day. So F, that's what we're on. We're doing F games. So F is for anyone educated in today's school system knows that the lowest grade you can get is an F. The low water mark, however, used to be represented by the letter E. When Mount Holyoke College, I probably butchered that, so sorry, people that go to college there. The administrators redesigned the grading system in 1898. The professors were about the students would think the grade meant excellence, so they changed it to F. So it stands for failure or failed. So that was your random fact for F.
Interesting. That's actually something that I never thought of, is the fact that the letter E was missing in the order.
I probably thought about it when I was like 3, and then or not 3, but 3rd grade. But yeah, other than that, I'm kind of like, okay, that's grading scale.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing that a lot of designers have come up with some excellent games under the letter F. And we were talking about this, and I could think of a whole bunch of games under F, and it's not even the most popular letter in the alphabet, but there are some really good ones out there.
Yeah, I think we had like C was a lot, where we were talking about so many good games with C that we should go just the top 10 of C games. There's a bunch. But all right, so let's just move over to what we got to talk about. So my first game that I'm going to talk about, so I can do this, is For Sale.
Good one.
So For Sale is a 3 to 6 players, and what you're going to be doing is first, it's like 2 sections of this game. So the first one is the bidding phase or the auction phase. Right? Yeah. So the auction phase or bidding, I don't know what it is really. But anyway, you're going to get $14,000 and you're going to bid for properties, and they go from 1 to 30, with 30 being the most expensive, which is, I think it was like the shuttle or something out in orbit. And number 1 is a cardboard box, or maybe a trash can, who knows? But it's something really low. Anyway, you're going to bid on these, and if you can either pass your bid, and then once you pass it, you take the lowest number 1, lowest numbered card out there, and then the next person can either do the same thing. But if you keep bidding, you're going to, once you back out, you're going to lose half of your money that you put in there. And then if you when like you take the highest card, you all your money goes into the pot. So that's how you bid for that. So you want to try to keep your money hidden. That way no one knows what you got, because otherwise people can just outbid you right away. And then after that's done, then you're going to put checks out there from 0 to 15,000 and use your houses for the bidding for the actual pricing of the checks. And then obviously the most expensive house gets the highest check, and then the least expensive house gets the lowest check. And then at the end of the game, everybody just counts up the points, and whoever made the most money flipping houses wins. It's really simple. This game, I think every time we play it, I think usually the first time, maybe because I suck at explaining it, but people are like, oh, now I get it. And then like they want to play again. And then you usually play about 2-3 rounds of it before, you put it up, because it is a pretty quick game too, about 15 minutes. But there's an expansion called the Advisors, which, have you played that yet, Joe?
No, I haven't. It was on Kickstarter, wasn't it? Not too long ago.
Yeah, I passed up on it because I wasn't for sure, but I might try to get it, because it's one of those games that's like I didn't feel like I need an expansion, but it's also like it's such a good game where I kind of want to try it with it, see if it adds more, because I really felt like the game was complete from there. But For Sale is just a really great filler. If you got 15 minutes, you're waiting for people to show up. We could have probably played it now, waiting for Tom.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I think everybody I've showed that one to has really enjoyed it. And like you said, we usually play multiple rounds of it because it is so quick. And if you lose, you want to get another chance at redemption. The auction mechanism in it is really interesting, because you have all these properties laid out, and you're not necessarily saying I'm bidding on this one property. You're saying I'm putting out a bid and hoping that in some cases, hoping that you have the most at the highest bid at the end, so you get the best property. But you're essentially bidding on all of the properties at once, and then it just is determined by who kind of backs out and who keeps going on, who's going to get what. You're always going to get something. But it's a really interesting mechanic.
Right. I think I tried different ways too. I tried to just take the lowest, like not bid anything, and just save my 14,000 and use that for my end total point. That didn't really work well. I mean, I tried different ways. I tried doing like one or something, and I don't know. It never worked. I cannot find a good strategy that always wins. But it seems like people that waste all their money bidding usually get the best cards out there.
Yeah, the money it will carry over to the next round, but it doesn't seem like it's as high of value, because if you have a few coins left over, like a few thousand, it doesn't really amount to as much as you could get from a good property on the bidding on the second half when you're selling, rather. The strategies all around. It's kind of like relative values relative to what's out there. So if there's a big range, I find in the second half, like you've got a 0 and a 7 and a 15 or something like that. That's where you really want to, get that really high end one. Whereas if the values are all like, 6, 7, 8, 9, there's not a huge difference in it. So you don't really care as much how you get them. So that's how I try to play in terms of getting the best value for it at the end.
I love it when those the 0, 7, 15 one, when you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to play like by 22 or something like that. And then you throw that in there, and then the next person throws in a 23, and then you end up wasting your 22 and getting a 0 check. And you're like, oh man, I should have thrown my 1 or whatever I had in there that I took, my lowest card.
And somebody might have played a 24 and you wind up with 0.
I was going to say that's even better when you throw that and get nothing. Yeah, I enjoy For Sale as well. It's that auction mechanic is really good. I like the fact that if they are close, which is the exact opposite of what you're saying, so maybe the value's like a 2, 3, 4 value out there or something, then you're like, well, I'll just throw my low card because I don't really care if I get the 4 versus the 2.
Yeah, it's all about trying to figure out what other players are going to do when, and trying to remember a little bit. Okay, who has what? Oh, am I going to be able to take this big one? Will they go for it? And then sometimes you're right, and sometimes you guess wrong.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes you have to take out cards. So you're like, okay, there's 2 15s originally, but you could have removed one or you could have removed both. So you could be holding on your high cards and then like both 15s are gone. And you're like, oh, now that you're using your high 30 card to take like a 7 or a 4 or something low because you're waiting for a card that just never came when it was removed.
Yeah. And I really like that you can take out some of those values, because I think that levels the playing field versus people that play it a lot and first time players or people that haven't memorized what all the cards are. Because if all the cards are in there and say Doug has played this a lot and I've only played it twice, I don't know that there's 2 15s out there. So he's like, oh, I'm waiting for this other 15. So it actually may end up hurting him that he knows that.
Yeah. Well, I usually tell people it's 0 to 15 and there's 2 of each. Yeah.
And it depends on the player count, but yeah, it's really nice that, some of those values are taken out and you don't know. So there's no guarantees. Those zeros might come up, the 15s might come up, but they might not. And you don't know when they're going to come up, even when they do.
My biggest gripe on this game though, and it gets me every time. So look at this. There's green and blue. The green, what do you think of green? You think money. It's the house. The blue is the money. And that is one thing I could change on this game would be that the back of the cards, switching the colors.
But the green can go for the grass at the house.
No one thinks green for grass.
Instead of blue, they could have gone
grass, Kevin.
Instead of blue, they could have gone gold, and I think that would have been okay. If they would have kept green for the house and gone gold for the money, I think that would
have been okay.
Yeah, there's not much green. There's not much grass around that cardboard box, though, sitting in the alley. So,
yes.
But the art in it is really fun too. And my wife, whenever we play it, she always does like a little introduction. She's like, "Oh, so you see, there's the small hut with your own personal raccoon, and then there's like the cave, and you have a coyote over here. So you can always see like little things. There's like little animals hidden in the background and that kind of thing, and so you can have a lot of fun with it.
I gotta pay attention more to the art of that. Usually, I'm the one that picks about the art.
I was gonna say Doug would love playing with you and your wife then, because me and his wife, we don't do and even the games where you have role playing and stuff, we're like, okay, just go. We don't. It's not.
Just get right into it.
Read it with a flat voice, and Doug's like doing accents over here. We're just like, speak faster. Come on.
There is a tent with a mailbox and a turtle.
Yes.
See, look at all the grass around there.
There is grass
on the beach. Grass on the beach.
Yes.
No, it's fun too. There's a lot of those moments in the game where, I got stuck with the outhouse, or all right, I got the the rocket or something like that for less than I expected. And like I said, when you're in the second phase, sometimes it really pays off. You're like, yes, I got a really good card or really good value for a really low value property. And other times you're like, oh no, I wasted something really good when I could have gone much lower and still got the same result. So there's a lot of those fun moments. It can go either direction.
Yeah, I really think this should be on everybody's shelf. This is such a great game, and it's like I said, and it's cheap too. So I'm pretty sure you can pick it up somewhere.
Yeah, and there's even a small travel box version. That's the one that I have. There's a larger version, I think, that has kind of slightly nicer coins versus the travel box one that I got. I think it was only like 10 or $15. It has thinner coins, which aren't as good quality, but the cards and everything else are just the same.
Yep. So hopefully you can find it for sale. All right. No, it's a bad joke. All right. So what do you got, Joe?
I've actually got a series of games, and one of them is one of the first games when I was getting into modern board gaming a number of years ago. So my wife was a big fan of Will Wheaton and tabletop. A friend got her into it. And one day after watching a bunch of episodes, she said, okay, I've got a list of 5 games. We have to go to the game store and we got to go get these. So I'm like, all right. So we went to the game store and got them all. I'm like, I hope these are good. This is, a little bit of money and we just spent on them. And one of the games we brought back was called Forbidden Island. And I had never really played a cooperative board game before that point. In those 5 games, Pandemic and Forbidden Island were 2 of them. And we played that, and it was, very simple rules. You're working together. You're moving around on this island that's, sinking all around you. You have to try to shore it up. You have to try to collect the, I guess, like the 4 trophies, and come together and get back to the landing spot, get on your helicopter and get off the island before it all sinks. So it's a really fun theme, very family friendly, and anybody can get into it. And it also uses action points. So you get to do different things on your turn, and you have to cooperatively figure out how to best do these things. Okay, you're going to go over and do this. Okay, I'm going to go over here. Oh, but we have to pass these cards together. So we have to find a way to get together. So it really kind of brings everybody together, to you win together or lose together. And then there's the different difficulty levels. So you can kind of play on starter. And then once you're more familiar with it and you're like, oh, we're doing fine, we're winning every time. Okay, let's crank up the notch a little bit and make it a little bit harder. And this is the first of 3 in a series. So then the next one after that, as I understand, Matt Leacock was challenged by saying, yeah, we want another game like this, but we want it to be harder. And my goodness, did he make the next one harder? I don't know if you've played Forbidden Desert, but it is a huge step up in difficulty. Most of the time you lose because you're walking around in this desert trying to collect parts from your ship that's crashed in the desert, and the sand is constantly being piled up everywhere. And you have to dig your way out before you can even get under there. You can run out of water. All like storms can come, and if you run out of sand to place, you run out of water, it's going to be game over. So there's so many ways to lose it. It's a big challenge. And then the third one that came out in this series is Forbidden Sky. And this is a very toyetic type of a game, where you have all these parts you need to get together to launch a rocket. And if you can manage to get all the parts at the end, you'll set up these little magnetic connections to the rocket, and it'll make this little blast off sound. So it really feels like you're, building this ship to get out of here. And it's a big challenge too, because, you've got all your characters moving around and they can get, blown away with the wind. It's just, they all work really well together using a similar kind of a system. So if you play one, you can understand the rest, but the challenge level and what you're actually doing in each of the games changes from one to the next.
They definitely did get harder as they came out with new series. And we're actually, I know me and Kevin and actually Amber as well, we talked about Sky was probably maybe too hard.
Yeah.
It was just everything that you took. So out of the deck that you would pull cards from, like the first one, you got just the symbols of the things you were trying to get. Once you have 4 of them, you can go get that item and use that to get out off the island. And then the second one had the items that you can dig up, where you're trying to find out where the actual item is in the desert, like the pinpoint. But like the third one, it was like every card that you pulled was a bad card. And I think that was like, it just kind of like beat us down, and beat us down, where it was like, oh man, it's actually Sky's our least favorite one.
Yeah, there was basically what he was saying is also there's like no reprieve when you have the danger storm deck or whatever that is. Whereas I don't recall what the reprieve is in Island, but I do recall in Desert, when it has the direction of the wind, sometimes that can just not move the space at all, because it can be in a space where it can't go anywhere, and that's kind of a reprieve. There's no real option like that in Sky. Like you can stay on the Faraday cages for lightning, but that doesn't help you out against wind. There's really no way to be safe and be protected. So there's it's more of a, you have to just throw caution to the wind and go for what you go, and you either get it or you don't. And that's kind of, I think for us, we like a little bit of a more strategic element where we can be like, okay, to be safe this round, everybody stop here, and then we'll do this. But just because of those cards, we didn't have that option.
Yeah, there's definitely those elements of luck. You draw the wrong card at the wrong time, and Forbidden Desert, you love it when it gets stuck in the corner. You're like, okay, keep pushing it down. Yeah, okay, right. Keep it there. You want to just keep doing that, and you might get some reprieve. And then other times it's just moving all over the place, and the sand is just piling up, and you just can't get out of it. So, I would concur with you about that. I haven't played Sky as much. I've only played it a few times compared to many times for each of the other ones. But it's definitely an interesting series. They got harder along the way.
Yeah. I remember when they announced Sky, we were at Gen Con, and we were like, I remember everybody was pumped about it because that's when they announced it. And then when they were selling it there as well, me and Amber waited in line for it. Like, we got there super early, and we were like ran right to the line just so we could get it. And then we didn't play it for like a year and a half. We're like, like we waited in line for this game, and we took forever just to go play it. But I mean, I think that the concept, and because it was like one of the first battery operated kind of into board games. Like, I know they said they wouldn't do it, but I think the concept of Sky I do like. I just kind of wish they just kind of eased that deck that you had to pull from and see.
Yeah.
I think that would have changed a little bit, because I know we were talking about, we felt like it was more like we got through it, but it's because we felt like the player powers is really the biggest thing.
And we felt like the difficulty wasn't really too much difference between the difficulty. Whereas I think our thought process was, if there were reprieve cards where nothing happens that you could put in that hazard deck, the amount of those cards that go in the hazard deck would be what changes the difficulty.
Yeah.
But Forbidden Sky looked really nice. Like, I really like the components when you have things set up, like for lack of better term, the 3D and everything, how things go together kind of has like a mousetrap feel where everything goes together, and it's just really cool looking. It's one of those that you could probably set up and leave somewhere and be like, hey, that's cool. That's a decoration now.
Yeah, it's got great table presence for sure. Like you said, like mousetrap, it's connecting things.
Yeah. I think as my boys get a little bit older, they might like it a lot more than we did, but it definitely is a fun one. I remember the first time we played Forbidden Island, though, and this was like one of our first board games that we actually purchased, and me and Kevin know, and we joke a little bit that we suck at reading the rules sometimes. Like, we read them and we don't really understand what we read. We kind of like do it. We're like, something's wrong, and we've realized we read it wrong. So on Forbidden Island, where you have to shuffle the deck, like when you pull like the Waters Rising card, we were taking that, putting it on top with like the cards that we were drawing instead of the other ones. So we were like shuffling it, and I'm like, oh, then we would pull the Waters Rising. I'm like, how can you beat this game? Because every card I pull is the Water Rising, because I keep putting it on top. And I was like, oh, I played this game completely wrong. I was like, I started on novice, and every time I drew a card, it was the Water was Rising.
But it's the hardest game ever.
it was for the first time. I was like, there's something wrong.
That reminds me of our pandemic play when when he did the setup where you have I think it's the 4 different decks, and you put the pandemic card in each deck and shuffle all those individually.
Yes.
And then he went ahead and he shuffled all 4 of those together.
Defeating the purpose.
And somehow all of the pandemics were at the top. So we just died. And then we're like, all right, let's play this again correctly. So we did it correctly. And then we died even faster than when we did it wrong.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
It's a very deliberate design choice, I think, by Matt Leacock, separating the deck. And it's a fantastic way to do it, to make sure that you don't just hit something over and over and over again, is, to make those separate decks and then stack them. I've used them in 2 of my designs as well. I use that in King of Indecision and Kingdom's Candy Monster, because it just works so well. And I wanted to be able to split up events from happening as well. It just made so much sense.
Yeah. What I really like about Pandemic 2 is just, you can play it and you can end it really quick, or it can, the long version where you go through all the cards. I think I do like that. But yeah, but The Forbidden series is great. I mean, I think Desert's really our favorite out of all of them. Desert's really good. I like stacking the desert tiles up and up and up. I'm like, okay, we need to dig this out. We need this part that's in here.
Really need that Dune Blaster, I think it's called, that it'll just wipe out the whole thing. Otherwise, you're just going to take turn after turn after turn trying to get rid of the sand, and then it's going to pile back up again. You're, oh, come on.
I think I like the water concept too, like the well concept, where like, okay, we need water. Where can we go? Like this one's here, we're all here. Let's all go there. And I like that concept too of passing the water off, or getting there so you can get the water. But I really think that was a really great move. But I don't the mechanic where the tile grid and where the two items like the north, south, east, west where they meet. I don't think I've seen that in any other game.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you don't know where a part is. So you're looking for the propeller and you flip up a card and you're like, oh, it's in this row. Okay, well, but you don't know exactly where it is until you flip up another one and then it says, oh, it's in this column. And you have to have them lined up. And those tiles can shift and change. So where it is going to be in a different part. Or is going to be under a different tile from the start of the game to when you actually discover where it is. But then as soon as where you discover it is, okay, it's there, it's pinpointed, it's where this row and this column intersect. And then you can go and get it. But I don't think I've seen that done in another game either.
Yeah, that's you need to take it and use it for a trick-taking player power game.
There you go, yeah. Well, I guess they had to come up with a way that it wouldn't just be under one specific tile, because maybe that you could identify that tile a little too easy from the back of it or something.
Start marking them all. Propeller.
Yeah, mark those tiles.
Yeah, I do like that concept, or that that idea, and I think that one needs to go in more games like that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that in more games.
Yeah, Forbidden series is really, really good. I do like it a lot. It's actually one that I know a lot of people too that are really fresh into board games. That is one of their go-to series, is the Forbidden series.
Oh yeah, Forbidden Island's a great one to introduce new players to, especially if they haven't played cooperatively and maybe they're not too into big competitive games and they don't want to play a game that people have played a ton before and they're just going to get destroyed at. It's like, no, we're going to work together. We're going to do this. Oh, you can do that? That's cool.
I think what's neat too about that series too is that series can go on forever. Like you could do like Forbidden Jungle or Forbidden Tower or something like that, and you could always come up with something to fit that theme. It could be a forever series.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll have to see if they continue with more, because I guess Sky, it's been a few years since that one came out. So
about 2-3. Yeah.
So we'll see if another one comes out after that.
Hopefully they do a little bit difficulty better on the from Sky.
True. Yeah.
But if they continue the trend of getting the difficulty increasing, I don't think I'd play the next one.
Just be forbidden game. You can't play it because it's just unbeatable.
You open the box and you lose, and it's like, oh,
it's just a sealed box. There's no way to get into it. Forbidden box.
There you go.
So when you play the Forbidden series, Joe, which one of these three is most likely to be on the table?
I guess at this point, probably Desert, because we played Island quite a bit. If it's with new people, Forbidden Island for sure. But if it's with people who've played it before, with my family, I think we jump to Desert. It's a big step up in the challenge, and it's just really interesting. Like you said, the mechanics of find the sand building up, finding where the pieces are, trying to get your water and everything. It's just definitely much more of a challenge.
So if you had to rank them, what would you rank them?
Ooh, probably Desert, Island, and then Sky. But yeah, it is player dependent based on if you have new players or not.
That's why I would rank them too. Desert, Island, Sky.
I would agree. I concur.
I feel bad because I hate bashing a game because it's really not that bad of a game. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's not saying that any of them are bad. It's just relative to one another. They're all great in the series, but they're, like you said, there could have been things done a little bit better with Sky in terms of the difficulty, a little bit more ability to avoid getting thrown all over the place by the wind, that kind of thing, maybe.
And of course, these are coming after the fact, and we don't know. It could have been included in the design process, and it's just like, this doesn't work for this game, so it got removed. So
that's the thing. You only see the finished product. You don't see all the hundreds and hundreds of hours that go into play testing and developing, and what was tried and what was not, and what worked and what didn't.
And it's probably because there was a really good strategy that somebody used, and it made the game super easy. And they're like, nope, more wind.
Yeah, that broke the game. So wind is just going to be out of control.
Yeah, that's actually why one of my favorite questions to ask designers and everything is, what's one thing on your game that you really wanted to include, or you really tried to push but it just didn't work and you had to abandon it, or was there anything like that? So I just really love that question, because I like to hear just basically what was their baby that they had to let go and it just didn't work with their game.
Yeah, and quite often that could have been the core concept of the whole thing, or the main mechanic, and it just, there's something just not working. You take it out and you're like, oh, you know what, this game actually plays better without that thing that I thought was so crucial to it, because you're clinging to it. You're like, oh, that's this is what made the whole game, but maybe it wasn't.
Yeah. All right, so that was the Forbidden series.
About time, Tom.
Yeah,
God, seeing Kevin that big is so scary.
Is that a fat joke?
Unintended.
Right, so Tom is finally here. Said he was gonna be late, so real quick, Joe, Tom, Joe. All right, now none of that's out of the way.
Hey, Tom.
What's going on?
Not much. You
you look different today, Tom.
Yeah, I'm trying the 8-bit version.
So you missed the For Sale and the Forbidden games, and now we're on to you. So you got a surprise for us, and I'm really curious. Hold on. Have we played it yet?
No, I doubt it. You know me.
That is very true, but I gotta ask.
Right. Joe, just a little background. I usually play a lot of more indie games from Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Outside of Marvel United. If they haven't told you, I'm a little obsessed with that game.
Thought we were going to get one episode without you mentioning Marvel United.
All right. So my game is a very basic card game. I like very simple card games. It is a battling card game called Farts and Fairies. And the idea behind it is you have fart attacks against each other, and you need to survive those fart attacks.
It's a unique theme. I'm good with that.
Who thought of
that? Who hasn't?
Created by Dan Matthews. It's hilarious. It's a lot of fun.
I think there's something going on with your camera, Doug. Like your face looks like a red tint going all over it.
I just was not expecting that for a title. That's like the Ninja Pooper on the beach. Like, who thinks of these games?
Now you know why I didn't want to say it in advance.
Ninja Pooper on the beach sounds like a physical experience that happened to somebody, though.
Oh, maybe.
Like, where'd that come from?
I think there's a ninja fart card.
Is that the silent but deadly?
The fart cards are the best part.
Are they scratch and sniff?
Let me try.
Let me try.
Fartisan cheese. Da Vinci the fartist. Farta Christmas. Radioactive farticle. Jar of Yeti farts. And fartichoke.
Oh, not just farts, but also puns.
Yes.
Yes, that's what they all are. Queen of Farts is a card, or like a playing card on there. The Mad Hatter is having a tea farty.
Of course.
So the idea is you attack. Well, you're dealt cards to begin. You have to pick up a card as your first action, and then you either play a card or pick up a second card as your second action. If somebody plays a fart card, you have to play another card to avoid the attack. Divert will divert a fart attack. You can reverse the fart attack. And then there's fairy cards that allow you, kind of like in Exploding Kittens, the diffuse card. One's called the Fart Police, so that basically just cancels out the fart card.
Is the reverse just a picture of a fan?
That would actually been pretty good.
That would work.
I don't think it is. I'm trying to remember. No, the reverse is a fart monster on one. It's all fart monsters.
Oh.
The divert is martial farts. There's two expansions. One of
Are
them
you laughing before you even got to say the name of them?
One's farts against humanity, right?
No,
that would be a top game for Tom.
That much. One's adults only.
Oh man.
So, Mother Farter, Sex Farty, Hawaiian Shart, Shart and Craft, Shart Infested Waters.
Are you just reading all the card names now?
They're freaking hilarious. It's the best part of the whole game.
Joe, you did this to yourself. You were like, I want to be on the F episode.
What have I gotten myself into? I was like, yeah, let's sign up for the F episode of all of them, right? Well, this could be worse, right?
The best effing episode we've ever had.
Oh my gosh.
I did not see that coming.
Well, that's because it's a cloud.
Yeah.
Oh.
Didn't smell it coming either.
And then ultimately, and there's other cards that you can play. There's Steal, Swap. Number twos make someone pick up two cards, or you pick up two cards.
Why does it not make them drop it?
It's a good question.
Okay.
And then if you lose the fart attack, you have to keep the fart card in your fart bank.
This is a pretty much brand new game, and it's got an 8.0 rating on BGG. I'm
like
actually
like
kind of
one review or something.
No,
Tom was a review.
Tom gave it a 10, probably.
Would.
And somebody else gave it a 6, so it just bounces.
It balanced out, yeah, with the 2 reviews.
It's got 45 reviews, and they're all pretty high.
It's a simple, fun game. It's funny. Play it with your kids. My 10-year-old was hysterical.
Oh, of course, that's perfect for that age.
I don't know where he gets it from.
We haven't even played it, and Doug can't stop laughing.
It was just, I was not expecting it. It was definitely.
Did it make your eyes water? Did it?
Yeah, it was a shock for me.
Must have been the onions in the room.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, I definitely have to try this game being an 8.0.
There's another expansion. Surprise Farty. But I forget what cards are in that one.
If we play this game, Doug, we have to either be eating Taco Bell or White Castle.
White Castle.
Just eat that pasta with the meat on it. I'm sure that makes enough gas. What's that stuff again?
The Toot Fairy?
No, what's that pasta that you guys eat? It's got like meat sauce on it.
Spaghetti?
No, there's like the specific one. Comes in a can.
Oh, chili?
No. Oh my god.
What are you
Chef
talking about?
Boyardee?
Yeah, what are you
What's
talking about,
the-
Tom?
There's the brand of stuff out there that you guys eat on spaghetti. It's like only known to Cincinnati area.
The Skyline chili?
Thank you.
I said chili, and you're like, no.
But you didn't say Skyline chili. You just
Because
said chili.
Skyline's a
So I was thinking
restaurant.
regular chili.
Yeah, there's multiple brands of it here in the Cincinnati area. There's Skyline, Gold Star, Blue Ash chili. So yeah, chili.
Well, only weird people eat chili and spaghetti.
I'm okay with being weird that way. It's delicious.
That is the artwork.
Doesn't really come through very well.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, the artwork is
okay.
It's hilarious.
Reverse.
And I know Doug is very anal. No pun intended.
I get it.
the, the Toot Fairy
Dust.
art dust.
Doug tore apart a game I reviewed one time because he didn't like the artwork. I think he spent 20 minutes trashing the artwork.
I did.
He did. He was very
And then I edited about 10 minutes of it out. Yeah. I'm pretty nice. All right, did you finish describing that game, Tom? I've laughed through most of it, so
you guys are all laughing too hard at the name of it still.
Like where do you go from there, really?
The restroom, maybe?
Wow, Tom, definitely made this podcast interesting.
And my goal since day one.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. Maybe next time. Next one will be better.
Maybe next time.
Q. Can we screw up Q?
I mean, if we try hard enough, we can probably do any letters.
Looking for a name called Queef. Starting it now.
Here he goes.
There's Quelf. You can mispronounce it.
Oh,
you got
good.
Quirkle.
Good.
Oh man.
All right. So,
Tom. Yeah.
So what was the name of your game again, Tom?
That was called Farts and Fairies.
Farts and Fairies.
I definitely have to check. Is this a Target game, Tom? I shouldn't ask this, but it probably is.
It's not Target. So if I didn't get it at Target, where'd I get it from, Doug?
Kickstarter.
We gave it to you, remember? So Farts and Fairies. What do you got, Kevin?
All right. So my game is a 2-player trick-taking game. It is Fox in the Forest.
I knew that's what you're going to say.
Yes. So I really enjoy Fox in the Forest because it is different from most other trick-taking games in the fact that you're actually going for a specific number of tricks to try and get your points. So I think there's a total of 13 tricks throughout the game. And if you get, I think it's 10 to 13 tricks, then you get 0 points. If the other person gets 3 or less tricks, it's 6 points. And then the points vary from there. So it's not possible for both people to get the max 6 points in one hand. And then the other piece of this is that every odd numbered card has a specific power. They all have the same powers based on which number they are. Like all the number ones have the same power, all the number threes have the same power. But it keeps the game interesting, and there's 3 suits. So I just really like this take on a trick taking, that it kind of mixes everything up, and it is good to add to just the repertoire of trick taking games. I know Doug and Amber are really fans of trick taking games. I am as well, as so is my parents, and we all enjoy this.
Yeah, this one I do love this game a lot. I mean, especially when you want to play a trick taking game, and then you want to have 2 players, you're just like, this is it. I'm bringing it out. Have you guys played the duet version of it though?
I have not.
I haven't played the duet. I own the original.
Yeah, I haven't played it either. I heard it was bad, but I haven't played it.
Honestly, I've steered away from it. I haven't looked into it at all, but mostly because in my mind, when I hear a game and they add the duet to it, to me, that means that they've changed the game to a 2-player only version. But if you already have a 2-player only game and you add duet to it, I'm confused on where they were going with that.
I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a cooperative taking game. But yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah, because I think they had Codenames, and then they came out with Codenames Duet, where you're playing 2-player. But I think you're doing that cooperatively. But then again, Codenames is a team-based game to begin with.
And it could be just because, and as you were saying that, I realized that the 2 names that they add onto them is normally duet, and that's going to be for co-op for if it's 2-player, and then duel is if it turns into 2-player versus. And I just, for some reason, I'd always read duet and get duel in my head that it's a 2-player versus, and it was already that way.
Very similar words, one letter different. Yeah,
right.
I never thought of it that way, Kevin, but yeah, that is so true. Duet and duel.
Yeah.
And
just because they're so close, they mix together for me, and it doesn't really make any sense to the designers. Like they're completely different meanings, and it definitely goes along with the aspect of duet being cooperative and duel being versus, but it's one of those things that just gets crossed.
7 Wonders Duet. You heard it here first.
I've heard good things about it. Yeah, I've heard the same thing, that Fox in the Forest, the original, is better than Duet. I guess it depends what your preference is, but I've heard better things about the original, and I quite enjoy it. I picked it up a little while ago, and my wife and I enjoy playing that. It is quite tricky trying to get just the right number of tricks, and if you take too many, then you could wind up giving all the points away. And then there's some cards, like I think it's a 7. If you win that trick, you'll earn a point too, so you can earn points within the game, not just at the end of the round based on how many tricks you've taken.
Yes.
I like when people try to, like my wife will try to take a bunch, and then she'll try to like pass it off, and I keep like throwing under her or whatever, so she keeps taking all the tricks, and then I can just see her get frustrated. Like, okay,
that could happen. You're like, I got all these, I don't want any more now. But then you can change suits if you have the right card too. You can swap cards out and then change the suit that's trump, and then maybe dump off your low ones, hoping that the other player has a bunch of trumps.
Yeah, thank you. Instead of saying decree, that was one thing I ran it on like Board Game Geek, and everyone's like, calm down. I'm like, no, I hate that.
Oh yeah.
We hate that in most of the games, like when there's specific universal names for something, like trumps, suits, but then the game decides victory points, the game decides to call it something of its own. And sometimes it's thematic and it makes sense, but majority of the times it just makes things too confusing, like the decree instead of the trump suit. And I've seen that most people end up going back to the universal words instead of the game designed words. And then if you have to go back to the rule book for something, you then have to be like, well, what's a decree? Okay, now I got to look that up because we've been saying trump.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah, this one is definitely a good one. And have you played the app either? The app is pretty good too. It's on iOS, Steam. Pretty sure it's on Android, but the app's actually pretty well done, and it's very visual too. So like the cards, the animation in it, it's really, really nice.
Do you play against an AI or do you play against another player?
You can play against people. Like, so me and my wife will actually play against each other all the time on it. It's a little bit easier, but so sometimes if like when I was working out of town a lot, we would just play together all the time.
Does this have like a good lobby setup and inviting people to games, or is it one of those where it just pairs you with the first person who's looking for a game as well?
It's been a while since I played it, but I cannot answer that one right now unless I logged in. I mean, I can give you somewhat of a memory. It sucks because I think that was most of the games. Lobby sucks.
Okay, so, yeah,
but I could be wrong.
No, you can really.
Because I know we just always play with each other. Yeah. But it's good, and it's only like $5. So I mean, about the same as actual, the game, physical game. And if you can't bend a card, so that wouldn't never get old.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's it. You missed the random fact there, Tom. We needed you for that.
What was it?
It was.
Go back and listen to the episode.
Back in time.
That's something I do, Kevin, unlike you.
Oh, okay. Shots fired. All right. So the letter E, people thought would stand for excellent, so they changed it to F for failure
in the
grading scale.
Interesting.
Now, were there any F games that should get an honorable mention?
Yes.
As other great games, just for the viewers.
So Formula D is the one we're playing right now. So we're doing the Formula D series where we're doing a race, and we have money involved into it, and we're racing around the track. I have all the tracks, so all 14. We're going to do all 14 races, but it's just a roll and move. And as you shift gears, you're going to grab a different dice. It rolls higher numbers. So you go further, but then you have to stop in the corners like 1 or 2 times, maybe 3. So you have to slow down to make sure you get those gears, and then you have other things like gearboxes and stuff. But I think Formula D is a great honorable mention. It is one that where I enjoyed it, but now that I'm playing more and more of it, it's definitely risen to my top.
Yeah, we've actually talked about it a lot on a lot of our podcasts, which is the main reason I didn't put it on here is just because we've discussed it so much, but it's definitely an honorable mention. Another one I think would be an honorable mention, especially for the digital version, which I think is really well done, is Flashpoint. Yeah. I think Flashpoint is a good co-op game. You go through, you put out fires, you have so many action points, and you can move, extinguish a fire, pick up some person, take them out, try and rescue them. And after your turn, the fire spreads, you get hot spots and things like that. Then you have specialists. So some specialists can maybe use the hose on the back of the truck to put out a wider area at once from outside. Some of them are hazardous waste specialists that can maybe not have movement penalties when they do that. So there's just a lot of different things. And the app that's on Steam that we've done is we haven't done it, but we've played is very nicely done. The controls are easy to do. It's very visually pleasing. The animations are well done. It's one of those that through the app you can learn the game without reading any of the rules and understand it.
It's remote play too, so only one person needs a copy on Steam, and then you can have as many players as you want. Well, the 6.
Nice.
So
that's another one that's on my shelf too. It's a really solid game. I really enjoy that one as well. I think the only negative thing I would say about that one is there's no time element to it. Like a lot of other games, you're gonna work your way up, like the Forbidden series or Pandemic. You're gonna get closer and closer to kind of going out, or when a deck runs out, the game kind of runs out. If you can really control those fires early on, then you can make the game much easier. But sometimes, the rolls just don't go in your favor and it's out of control. But it's very thematic, very fun game. Definitely, I recommend that one too.
Yeah. What else you got there, Tom? Farts and what?
The next one is Sharts and Shandy. No, I'm just kidding. I do another F1 that I was debating, but I thought Farts and Fairies was just too funny to pass up. I bought this one for my daughter because it's called Fump. Fairy, Unicorn, Mermaid, Princess, Kitten. And you're just basically deck collection, just trying to collect certain cards to so you've got the 5 different cards or symbols No, you have 4 different symbols, and then different princesses have. I haven't played this one in a while. Different princesses have 2, 3, 4, or 5 of those symbols, and you have to play cards with that, and then you're playing to a certain number of points. So each fairy or each princess, I'm sorry, has different level of points. So simple card game, but like I said, my 8-year-old is obsessed with all of those. So I thought it was a good purchase.
Perfect combination of all the things in there.
My mind is still stuck on those 5 items combined together like a chimera, and it's really kind of freaky.
Well, it's got different mixes in it too. Like there's mermacorns, there's mermakittens. It's an 8-year-old girl. She loves it.
It's really Tom's game.
Yes.
What about you, Joe? What do you got an honorable mention?
I will say it does have my name on it. So that's kind of an added bonus.
I got one of those too.
Mine's better. Actually, it doesn't have my name on it. It has Gavinfinity on it.
Oh.
Okay, so I actually had Fox in the Forest and Flashpoint as possible other ones. So I will jump to another great one, one called Friday. I don't know if you guys have played this one, but this is a solo game. It's kind of a deck building game where you're trying to almost train somebody that's on an island, Friday, from Robinson Crusoe, and to take on different challenges, that type of thing. And they get harder as the game goes along. And then if you get through the 3 rounds, then you'll take on pirates. So you're using all these cards that you've built up in your deck as like weapons, and being able to reuse cards, being able to gain more life back and that type of thing. It's a great, challenging little solo game. It was probably my first foray into solo gaming, actually.
I totally forgot about this game. But yeah, I haven't played it yet, but it was one that was always on my radar when I first got in the hobby. I just never picked it up.
Yeah, totally worth a play. It's by Friedman Fries. So, adding to the F collection there as well.
You get double points for that.
There you go. This is like a double word score or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Friday I was actually thinking of last Friday when you I think it's last Friday, the horror one. But hopefully I'll have Final Girl too. Or that'd be another one.
Well, if
they
have
really
Final
good
Girl,
random fact about next Friday the movie in our D games.
Day.
I was gonna say, if they have Final Girl 2, was the first one really the Final Girl?
Well, there's a bunch of different Final Girls.
The penultimate girl.
Yes.
Just didn't sell as well. The name didn't kind of roll off the tongue.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it for the show, though. All right, so next week we are going to have the president of Level 99 Games, which will be Brad Talton Jr. He'll be on, so make sure you guys check that episode out. Anyway, we're Meeple Knights. I'm Doug.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Kevin.
I'm Joe.
Yep, and make sure you guys check out Joe's games as well. So I'll put them in the description or a link to his Board Game Geek link, so that way you guys can check them out. Are they on Tabletop Simulator, Tom? Not Tom. I'm sorry, Joe.
Relics of Rajavahara is, but I don't think any of the others are available on TTS at the moment.
I was just playing that yesterday.
How was it?
It's not a TTS game.
No, better in person for sure.
Yeah,
that's the way it was made.
It was fun, but I was like, I can't do this. You just need the physical pieces. I think it would have grabbed my attention a lot more that way. I like the concept of it, but it's
Absolutely.
TTS trying to stack things, and even though it's programmed to stack them, it's still like if you grab one of the blocks the wrong way, it's like on an angle, and then when you stack it, It's a die, so it ends up rolling. It just
so I guess go get the physical copy of Joe's game. So
at least for
like
that one. I don't know about the other ones.
And check them out. So anyway, once again, we're Meeple Knights.